You know what? Speaking of somebody at the Oscars that I didn't realize, I mean, Amy Schumer on Twitter just gets ripped apart, like in the comments, man. Yeah. And I didn't realize, like, in reading all this, how much, and this could be a small percentage. Who knows? Twitter's not real, but every time something's posted, like from a magazine or whatever, and it's on the Twitter feed, I'll go read the comments because I'm like, let's just see. And oh my gosh, there wasn't a single positive one about her.
No. I hate Twitter. I hate it so badly.
And I feel like all comment sections are somewhat that way these days. Like everybody just has a problem with everybody.
Well, here's the thing. It's where people who aren't famous and who aren't going to become famous go to become famous by tearing down famous people.
Mm-hmm. But keyboard warriors.
It really is. But then the thing is, the people who are famous get in the mud with them. And they're not really defending themselves. They're not doing that. They're only becoming they're becoming less famous. When you start arguing with somebody who's not famous, when you're famous, you start arguing with somebody who's not famous, you're taking your own fame away. Those people are winning because there's no separation anymore. And I'm not trying to say famous people are any better than anybody else. By no means. I hate that mentality. But
the mystery starts to go away.
Absolutely. It was like, okay, and I'm not going to say the name, but there was a person who has an actor that's done a lot of really, some notable stuff from our area. And they came along to the film festival and they did like the Q&A session. It was one of the workshops, a Q&A session that morning. A lot of people showed up. It was really cool to go and listen to the stories and this person talk and all these things. And I was like, that's awesome. So then when it was over, this person hangs around to watch some of the local movies. And I thought, well, that's really cool that they didn't like just jet out. They hung around. They were walking the halls, talking to people and watching a couple of movies. Well, then later on, the person is still there. And I thought, oh, you're still here. Oh, okay. Just hanging out all day. I got you. Well, then at the after party, after the festival's over that night, in the big tent, this person's still hanging around. And now 2 people are fighting over this person out beside the tent door, and like it's middle school. And
I thought, fighting? What do you mean fighting over this?
There was like 2 people arguing over, like this person's in between them, keeping them apart, and I didn't know what was going on.
What were they arguing about?
I have no idea, dude. But it was like, you go to middle school dance, and man, I'm gonna stand outside the door. I'm fighting for your honor, and blah 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 blah. And really, it means nothing.
I'm so intrigued by this. Were they like, he's my friend, and he's like, no, he's more my friend, or this person, whoever it is.
No, I think it was more of a, this person's with me. No, this person's with me, sort of thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and again, my wife told me something a long time ago, and I don't really drink, and maybe if I did drink, I would understand more about what goes on at those things.
Mm-hmm.
But I go in with a real sober mind and just sort of like wallflower it, and try to understand what's happening. But my wife told me a long time ago, when I would go to these festivals and whatnot, she said, remember, don't stay too long.
Oh man, Bruce, nugget of wisdom that he always gave me, which I've never truly listened to until recently. He always said, leave when it's good. I get it.
Yeah, and she said, it's the same sort of thing. It's like, make people say, where did he go? Not why is he still here?
Oh man. Yeah.
I'm like, I like
Bruce,
that.
Bruce gave that to me, and I have not really paid attention to it till the past like couple years, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, always leave when the party's good. And I was like, oh,
exactly.
man.
Exactly.
I get it.
Because again, you're getting in the mud with the Twitter people. And for me, Twitter, when I first joined it, I thought it was going to be really, it's just you follow famous people and you might get to talk to them or something. And it would be, this is what's going on. This is what I'm doing, things like that. And, oh, yeah, let's hang out. And, oh, yeah, come see this movie, blah, 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 blah. And it just quickly turned into not that at all. It's like when you have all these expectations when you go to, school party, and you're excited, and then you get there and just people are just dumping on you, and you just want to leave right away. That sort of thing. So I hated it. It's like every time I opened Twitter, it was like this flood of negativity and hate and not famous people trying to drag famous people. And, I can't be you, so I'm going to cancel you is the mentality.
Yeah.
And I think that's where cancel culture comes from. It's people who are jealous of people who have accomplished things, and I can't be you, so I'm going to make sure you can't be you either.
Golly, what a life.
It's sort of like serial killer kind of mentality. If that makes any sense. There was a girl she was on My Sister Sam. She started on that 80s show, My Sister Sam. And her
woman, Jeff. Woman.
Sorry. Whoa,
No.
man. Whoa, man.
Keep going.
Whoa, man. Anyway, so her biggest fan murdered her. Like, she was in her hallway going to her apartment in New York, and he walked up and shot her. He was her biggest fan.
Like, if he couldn't have her, nobody could.
And that's the thing. That mentality is like, or if I can't be you, also, I mean, you can go with the route, like you said, if I can't have her, nobody can have her. Or it could be in a different view. It could be, if I can't be her, she can't be her either.
Golly, what a sad, like, story, situation, life.
Well, and it was crazy because we were doing, actually, it's one of the shows that you and I were doing together, a touring show, Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. And I was in the truck with Jenny Ballard, who played your mom. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're riding along. We're talking about this sort of stuff. And we're talking about this exact My Sister Sam story. And she was like, I just don't understand what gets in people's heads. What is in your head to do that? And I just took on the role of that. I'm like, well, think about this. One of the most personal moments a person can have is when they die, right? And they want their loved ones there with them. Typically, I mean, some people don't, but you have your loved ones there to take care of you and things like that. And I said, think about this. Like, that guy knew that one of the most personal moments was this person's death. So what if when he shot her, he's there to comfort her? I care about you so much that I'm the one that's here to take care of you as you die.
Oh my gosh.
Think about that.
This is a wild conversation.
I'm not a serial killer, by the way.
And is that Twitter, I guess, without
I think it is
the actual death?
People.
Yeah, it's the social death.
Well, you can go to the Bible or Scripture, and it says you can murder someone with your tongue.
Right.
I mean, when you say something about someone, I know I'm guilty of this, but you're really killing them.
I
Especially,
think everybody is.
It's hard. It's hard not to do.
Well, and the thing is anger and chemical imbalance.
Sure.
All sorts can fuel any of that. I think it's what you do with it after. But
right.
How sad. That really got me.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, and I think Twitter's that. Twitter is one big it's death party, I guess is what you call it. And
sheesh.
People
hope we don't post our conversation on there.
We're inviting it, aren't we?
Oh, man.
I think the biggest way to combat Twitter is just to ignore it. It's just to ignore it.
Right.
I mean, I know I started it for our little thing here just to have for, reference point. But already it's like, and Twitter is the thing that it prompts you to be that way. It's almost like the devil, it's like Satan. So Satan doesn't get blamed for what you do. You get blamed for what you do.
Right.
But there's prompting to it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to prompt you to be this way. I'm going to prompt you to do that. That's exactly what Twitter is. When you open Twitter, geez, and I've been off for, I left it in 20, like fall of 20. And I just said, every time I open this, there's just too much hate. There's too much, people just going after people for no reason. This is just a hate-filled place. And I encourage everybody to leave. And I left. I mean, I deleted everything. I didn't just close the account. I deleted it. Like I tried to log back on recently, and I've been gone so long, I don't exist in that world anymore, which is fine.
Well,
but
I've kept mine. And I've always been very conscious of other people for the most part, especially social media. And given that doesn't cancel, any human error that I've made. Right. But I approach things now differently than I did 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And now it's like I look for opportunities to try to maintain some kind of positive response.
Yeah.
Because it's weird. Because I'm very myself. I've always made fun of for being so sensitive. I love hugs. I love like camaraderie. I love like teams.
Yeah.
And so I caught myself a few times in life where I was like, wait a minute, I'm leading with the wrong emotion here.
Mm-hmm.
And now I focus solely on entertainment. Like I'll look at all these tweets of like movies or music, and I'm like, awesome. I would never, especially being in this business professionally too, in the movie business, it's like, even if it's the worst movie I've ever seen, there's no sense in me telling the whole world that.
Right.
If I thought the performances were garbage, the story was garbage, like there's no sense in it doesn't do anything to better whatever artist, director, studio, whatever that was that put that out. It doesn't benefit anybody, to sit there and if anything, it creates hostility. And I'm like, man, the last thing I want in my life is any more hostility.
Sure.
So that's one thing that I would love to encourage the world to do. But I don't know. Every time you turn around, it's like it's a mess everywhere.
Yeah, it is.
Humanity, politics, entertainment. It just seems like a big old blender full of just insanity.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's tough trying to think of an example. aside from all this, but I can't off the top of my head right now.
It's all right.
But that's the thing is I don't, there's a few moments I've read some stuff on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and I just wanted to be like, lead with that anger, and then it's like, wait a minute. I feel like that all of a sudden you catch yourself in the middle of typing something out and you're like, I feel like I'm getting baited here to fail.
It's true though.
And that's the thing. It's like, I was like, I don't want to be baited anymore. I don't, that's what bums me out. All of it bums me out. I just want to go, I don't even think there was a day, but I just want to go back to, let's just pretend there was a day. I want to go back to the days where it was all just fun, making movies, and you enjoyed it. And then you were like, man, I can't wait for the next one, whatever movie that is. I remember back in the day when it was like, I don't want to be late for the previews. That's the best part. You always said that's the best part. And it's like, wait a minute. How are the previews the best parts? Because you got something to look forward to. And then the movie itself, you're like, oh, it's great, whatever. But I can't wait to see this movie coming out in, 3 months, a year, whatever it was. Yeah. How wild is that? Nowadays, it doesn't matter what time you show up to the theater because you can just watch the trailers on your phone.
I know.
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
Listen to us old dudes. Those old dudes.
Well, again, with Twitter, I mean, it just encourages that. It encourages strife and conflict. And because even you have things you can't turn off. Like I'll try to turn off like the news and like it's encouraging me to think about this. It's encouraging me to look at this. It's encouraging me to care a certain way about a thing. And that's not, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to know about that because it only makes me angry. You see what I'm saying?
It makes you sad. Yeah.
Sad, angry, whatever. And it's just, I don't know. It's a mess. But I don't know. It keeps things going. And I, used to, you would confront an instigator like that. It's like, why are you trying to start stuff between us? Why are you trying to start stuff? And you'd have a meeting with this person.
Right.
We're going to have a meeting. And so why are you trying to start stuff? And that person would either double up or fold. So
I've done a few tests myself on Twitter just to see how it would. And it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
That was super hurtful.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, I learned a lesson. And it wasn't like, I'm not going to get into specifics about it, but I did tests just to see like what the waters were. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. This starts getting real hard.
Yeah, it does.
And I think that was an interesting, I've always done stuff like that. Like little tests and experiments, not because of any, but just to learn something and be like, okay, that's where we sit as a society. I get it.
Yeah.
What was I going to say about all that? There's something else. I don't know. I was gonna say the greatest trick the devil ever pulled off was convincing the world that social media was good.
Yeah.
But
got that right, man.
Also learned today, let's get political.
Okay.
I'm gonna get canceled.
Sorry.
Found out that the big headline was that the Republicans denied an insulin cap for how much insulin costs, and then I can't remember the exact number of all the denies.
Uh-huh.
But then I looked into it, and basically what was said is that there was other things in the bill that were like, it gave the government too much power.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, here I go again, sitting on the middle of the road, in the middle of the road, because I would love there to be a cap on insulin. Absolutely. But then you're like, but it is, I don't think people think about the fear of those other things, those other that kind of control going to someone else has always scared me, you know. And I thought it was so wild, you know. And we can get realistic here. Donald Trump put a cap on it at 25. Joe Biden erased it, or, you know, executive order got rid of it, and then came back with a $35 cap. And it's so confusing because you're sitting there like, hang on a minute, huh? And then now it's like all the Republicans are saying, we're not giving that cap either. And it's like, huh? Like, what is actually going on here?
Well, and the reason is that they don't do bills by one subject.
Right.
They pack them with things. So what they do is say the Democrats, Republicans, whoever. Right now, Congress is controlled by a full Democrat. It's fully controlled by Democrats. So they're going to get everything they can try to get in there. So what they do is, and this is manipulation and propaganda as well. So they really want to force people to, oh gosh, let's say they want to force people to, I don't know, dig a ditch somewhere and set it on fire. You know what I'm saying? They really want to force people to have to dig ditches and set those ditches on fire. But they know they can't go out in the public and go, today we want to pass this bill where we're going to force people to dig a ditch and set it on fire. They don't do it that way because that you can't just go and do that, because nobody would agree to that. Well, some people would now, people who are solely involved with party politics or nationalism, they'll say, oh yeah, well, if they say it, then there must be a good reason to force people to dig that ditch and set it on fire. Maybe it's probably for the environment. They'll do that, but that's not how they do it. They go and they say, okay, we want this. So what we'll do is, and we know that the Republicans won't want that. They don't want to have the power to force people to dig a ditch and set it on fire. So they're not going to agree to it. So what we're going to do is, and that would make them look good. It would make the Republicans look good. So if the Democrats come out and say, we want to force people to dig a ditch and set it on fire, and then the people go, wait a minute, what? And the Republicans go, we totally disagree with forcing anybody to dig a ditch and set it on fire, by the way. So now the Republicans aren't on the people's side. So it appears. So what they do is they say, we need to whitewash this, sugarcoat it a little bit. So they say, let's find something that we know people really want and would affect the majority of people, and put it in that same bill. So they say,
we're going to give you the land. We're going to give you the land to dig a ditch, to set on fire. And then the Republicans are like, well, we don't want the land. See, they don't want the free land. They don't want them to have the free land.
Yep. So in your case, it's like insulin. It's like they're going to stick, let's put the cap on insulin. Well, the Republicans are not going to go for that because they know the truth of that bill. So they're going to put these two things together, two diametrically opposed subjects. But the thing that you're going to hear, you're not going to hear about the forcing people to dig ditches and set on fire. You're going to hear Republicans say no to capping insulin on Americans with diabetes. That's what the media is going to say, because that was the plan all along. Get that out there, and then Republicans, what can they say? You're not going to listen to the full story. You're going to listen to the bullet point that you're told to listen to, which is Democrats want this way. The media is going to do what the Democrats tell them to do, and they're going to say evil Republicans deny health care in form of insulin cost cap presented by Democrats.
I think the saddest part of all this is that there has to be a cap on, like, there has to even be a conversation of, I guess, private businesses, or are they public? What do you call them? The pharmaceutical companies that are in charge of the pricing of all this. You know, I think the saddest part is that those businesses do that.
Right.
And that the government has to step in to be like, okay.
Well, and it's one thing. I mean, diabetes is one of those things that people are just born with. And
oh, dude, I've had it my whole life, but I've also done some research on it as of late, and it's crazy on how far back it goes. And then, like, I want to believe 1922 is when they first really kind of figured out some insulin.
Yeah.
And that they took it. I'm so like proud to know this, but it's like they took the pancreas out of dogs, and then dogs like lived a little bit and died, a couple weeks later or whatever. And then what they did is they took the pancreas out of dogs, and then this is a long timeline of things, but
it's okay.
Then they started taking the insulin from the pancreas of one dog and putting it into the other dog, and found that those dogs would live longer. Crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
But like they say, it goes back to like Egyptian days where there was like,
yeah.
There's been talk of like, I can't remember what it was exactly, but like sweet urine or honey urine is what they called it. And that's like a thing, when your blood sugar runs high, you're basically peeing sugar,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's nuts. It's crazy. Like how diabetes is it's been, and now we're sitting here. And I guess the reason I thought about all this was because I'm on my last pin of short term, and people don't understand type 1 diabetes in the sense that I take two types of insulin. One is a 24-hour that constantly works.
Yeah.
And then the other one is a short term that I take when I eat or drink something with carbohydrates in it or whatever. So it knocks down, carbohydrates turn into energy for me.
Right.
I guess for all. And so I'll take that insulin if I get too many, so it helps turn that into energy, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I got one pin left of that short term. And last time I went to the pharmacy, they looked at the screen as they pulled out the 1 month box, and they were like, oh, okay. What do you have insurance? I was like, not right now, working on it. And they were like, oh, okay, this is going to be $2,300. And I was like, what? Like, what? And I guess immediately I think of myself. And then secondary, right after, like all in a matter of seconds, I think about other people out there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then you read stories of high school kids and college kids that are broke, and they start rationing their insulin. And there's a whole thing out there, like whole like news feeds of people rationing their insulin and dying, or just getting sick as a dog. And I was sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, this is nuts. And I think the saddest part to me is like, I'm very independent. I love adventure. I love the idea of being able to be self-sufficient. And the truth of the matter is I'll never be self-sufficient because of diabetes. Right. And it's awful. That's a terrible feeling.
Yeah.
For me, I guess other people and other, different strokes for different folks, but like, I hate that. I hate the fact that I can't like leave the country or go hike the Appalachian Trail without an actual plan of insulin.
Right.
And then to spin it all the way back to the beginning of this conversation, the government has to try to put a cap on it or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's unaffordable for the people that have it, or common folk.
But they know it's one of the most common things that Americans or humans in general deal with, and they're going to use that as bait. It's always going to be the worm. They really don't ultimately care about people with it. They don't. I mean, ultimately they don't. I'm sure there's some people who care in Congress. Rand Paul is one of them. He tried to pass a bill to where, or he changed the way they do things into saying that this bill is a singular subject. He tried to get it to where you can't put different things into one bill. He's like, if it's going to be about forcing people to dig ditches and set them on fire, then that's all we're voting on. If it's going to be about putting a cost cap on insulin for, Americans with diabetes, that's what we're voting on.
Yeah.
But they don't do it that way, and then that's the sad part, because it's all bait. It's all bait. And they use humans as bait.
I'm somebody's worm.
You are, man.
I'm somebody's worm.
Not the early worm. And it was just like with when it was discovered that what Fauci did with the puppies. You know about that, right?
If it involves any kind of animals getting hurt, I don't want to hear it.
Okay.
I guess it does.
It does.
All right. I mean, just bring it out then. Ugh.
Okay. So this is from PETA. This is their website, right? So I'm going to pull up the most close to left group that you can come up with. PETA. The headline says this. Hi there. We just want to say thanks for listening to Hump Day Conversations with Jeff and Linds. We really appreciate it. We want to give a super good shout out to Jacob Boyd with Post Retro for his invaluable guidance as we put this thing together. Go listen to his super swell podcast, Talking Indies in My Undies, wherever you find podcasts. We also want to give an extra super duper shout out to our founding Patreon patron, John Thomas Oakes. JT is part of the We Feel You tier, and by being so, we'll get this shout out as well as written mentions in our video versions and social medias, and we will read and respond to his letter email once per month in a special extra episode. You can find JT every Sunday night at 7 p.m. on John Brannion's Starving Comics Quarantine Show on YouTube. We also want to welcome Katie Berheim from South Dakota to the Hump Club. Katie is part of the We Hear You tier, and by being so, she's going to get this shout out plus written shout outs on all our social media outlets. If you'd like to join JT and Katie in the Hump Club, go visit our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/HumpDC. That's HUMPDC. Don't forget the new episode of our little show drops every Wednesday at 12:12 a.m. on Spotify and iTunes, and at 12:12 p.m. on YouTube, with one or both of us in a live chat as it premieres on the Daydreamer Pictures channel. We hope we can help you get over Hump Day with some laughs and whatnot. Be sure to slap the like buttons wherever and whenever possible, share and subscribe.